Happy Lag BaOmer, Chag Sameach, Yom Simchosei Shel Rashbi, the day of rejoicing of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. That's the way the Kabbalists of Tzfat describe this 33rd day of the Omer, the day when Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, the great sage and the great mystic, the author of the Zohar, requested explicitly that the day of his passing should be marked as a day of celebration, of great celebration. And indeed, ever since, we're talking about almost 2,000 years, every generation and every year, Lag BaOmer was celebrated with great joy through all the communities. No one else merited this. It's unique. Not Moshe Rabbeinu. You know his passing was on the 7th of Adar. We mark it, but not in the same way. Not Rabbi Akiva, the great teacher of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. But Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, yes. However, this year, perhaps the first time in history, unprecedented, we will not be able to celebrate in the conventional way. We cannot make the pilgrimages of the hundreds of thousands of Jews that would go to Miron, the place of his rest, his resting place, Rashbi. And Jews in all communities will have to do this in a unique, innovative ways at home, in closed circles, can't do any public gatherings. And not due to an enemy outside that has decreed, due to a mysterious microbe that God has allowed to enter into our lives, a coronavirus that's creating all this havoc. And yet, the Jewish people always dig deeper, and we find more powerful resources within. And we can indeed turn this Lag BaOmer into a truly historical day, one that, like never in history, has been celebrated and appreciated quite like this. Let's look at it. It's uncanny. It's surreal of the common similarities between what is happening today in 2020, Tov Shin Pei, and what happened at the time of Rashbi. Let's begin. A plague, an epidemic. In the days before Lag BaOmer, there was an epidemic. The 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, due to the lack of respect to one another, died in a plague, an epidemic. Askara, the Gemara calls it. A bacteria that entered into them and caused them to die. When did this plague end? On the 33rd of Omer. Which is why we have a second reason there's a celebration, but it's connected, because Rab Shimon Bar Yochai is one of the 5 students that Rabbi Akiva, who those 24,000 students died, he was able to rebuild with Rab Shimon Bar Yochai and 4 of his colleagues, rebuild his community, Jewish life, going forward till this very day. A plague. Rashbi personified the antithesis to the lack of respect. He personified what his great teacher Rabbi Akiva taught, V'ahavta l're'echa kamecha. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Love your fellow. This is a great principle of Torah. It's like the foundational principle of all of Torah. And Rashbi held up and honored that. We find in the Zohar, Rashbi has a statement. He says, there is a path for some where they serve God through fear, through awe, through distance, through trepidation. Anon b'chvivosa talya milsa. However, it is through love that it's all dependent upon. The love that we have to God and the love that God has to us. And that indeed was his motto, was his essential life. That wherever he was able to, he helped others. The parallels continue. It's not just the plague and the end of the plague. Rashbi was quarantined for 12 years. He was trapped and locked in a Maira, in a cave with his son Rabbi Loza, due to the Roman emperor's decree, because they were looking for him because he was studying Torah, which was punishment, death penalty. So for 12 years he was quarantined. And we're told about amazing events that happened. He did not turn it into a retreat of cowering into fear, demoralization, depression, fear and concerns. He studied and achieved some of the greatest heights of divine knowledge and refinement, to the point that when they came out after 12 years of quarantine, wherever they went, they could not tolerate the pettiness of life around them, so whatever they looked at began to burn. God said, 1 more year, you need a 13th maturity year. And they went back into the cave, they came back, and now, whatever was broken, they fixed. Rabbi fixed. Whatever was sick, he healed. He became a healer. Second connection. We know the Talmud tells us, Kedai Rab Shimon lismech alav b'shas adchak. It's worthy relying on Rab Shimon in times of distress, in times of emergency, in dire straits. Yochel ani lifter es kol ha'olam kulei min adin, said Rab Shimon ben Yochai. I can redeem the world from all severities. So indeed, Lag BaOmer is a celebration of unity, a celebration of blessings and miracles, celebration of healing, and turning a quarantine into a completely new revolution of goodness, kindness, unity, love. That's how Lag BaOmer is celebrated this year. We appreciate more than ever Rashbi's contributions, and we beseech and say, we are celebrating your simcha. Do your part. You said, we can rely on you, b'shas adchak. The Talmud says we can rely on you when there's an emergency. We're in a crisis now. You said that you can redeem us, so redeem us. The Mungad Sharov, Minchas Alazar says, b'shas adchak includes golus, the tchak, the pressures of exile, of displacement. We're told that Keteris, the incense that was brought into the temple and that we read every day in the prayers, is an antidote, a spiritual antidote to magefus, to plagues. Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, in his last words before he passed, before he went up to heaven, said, "B'chad katira is katarna." With one knot I bind myself with you. The word keteris comes from being bound, the antithesis of illness. Illness is disconnection, a severing, and keteris reconnects. Tremendous parallels. It comes alive in a completely new way, Rashbi's life. So may we use this day to the fullest, to celebrate, to be united, to demonstrate that we are one, love, and that in turn will bring us the blessings of Rashbi doing his part, of redeeming us in time of severity, and relying on him when there's challenging and crisis. And we should finally see the redemption. B'hai sifre deloch yafkim b'nei Yisrael migalusa. Through your book, through Rashbi's book, the Zohar, the Jews will leave exile, will leave Golus, because this book reveals the neshama, the primis, which in turn brings us the Geula Hamitis V'Ashlema, the complete redemption, the healing of all people in a way that as if the illness never struck them in the first place. May we merit this on Lag BaOmer, the Geula Hamitis V'Ashlema with Mashiach Tzidkenu.